Welcome to DRGN's first ever school board forum. My name is Derek Williams. I'm the sponsor of this group of kids, and we have a couple of disclaimers before we get started this night. Real fast, just so you know, this is our first time ever doing this. We've never done anything like this either. Brand new class in August, so we may very possibly make mistakes. So please bear with us. If we have mistakes, we'll try to fix them as fast as possible. This is a student production, so please, if you would, keep that in mind as you're submitting questions and things you want to write, as students will be screening these and helping ask the questions. So please make sure that they are appropriate for all ages of kids, since that's what this is about. At this time, the questions are open. You can ask your questions, you can submit them and send them in. But please know that only questions submitted in the video feed can be asked. So please don't text me or one of the kids because we can't ask those questions. Please send it here on the Facebook Live. Real fast, a couple of thank yous. We really need to thank KMRN, KKWK, not just for tonight, but for the entire year for their cooperation with our program. We want to thank the administration for all their help, getting everything set up for tonight, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Shanks, Brett Jones at the high school. Also, a big thank you to our board candidates. Coordinating this many schedules with the kids and them was tricky, but they all made it work, and so we really appreciate them working with us. And again, we want to remind you that only questions sent in the video can be asked. So we will be monitoring your questions live, and we will ask those questions. Any question asked will be asked of every candidate, so please keep that in mind as well. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our moderators for tonight, Zoe Jones and Tyler Anderson.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tyler Anderson.
And I'm Zoe Jones, and we would like to officially welcome you to our first ever school board forum.
To kick things off, we have Daryl Howell with us tonight, and Jackie Peck and Dan Kircher. We will start with opening statements. For a statement, we'll go to Jackie Peck. You may begin.
Welcome and thank you for being here tonight and taking part in this exercise. My name is Jackie Peck, and before I begin to speak a little bit about myself, I just wanted to reach out to Dragon Radio and Global News Network. The students that run this are just a great bunch of kids, and it takes a lot of preparation and effort and time to do what they're doing. I want to also thank Dr. Mark Carr and for Creative Vibes Photography, KKWK, for their support of these students and their endeavors. I love what we're doing here at Cameron, in the Cameron School District, and this is one of the programs that I would sure like to see more of. So thank you to all of you. For all of you who know me, you will know that I would be much more comfortable being behind the camera than in front of one. And I probably speak for all the candidates that we're a little bit nervous, but we are also looking forward to answering your questions tonight. I guess to start off with a little bit of background, I would just say that in terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in science from Truman State University in health sciences. I have an associate's in applied science. I sat and passed the boards to become a registered respiratory therapist, and sat for my certification to become a certified pulmonary function technologist. My family consists of my husband Russ, who's worked at a local facility in Cameron for over 20 years. I have a daughter that is a junior in the Cameron High School. I am looking forward to answering your questions to the best of my ability tonight, and I think that I could probably speak for all of us candidates in that we are all here because we want to represent our students, faculty, and our community. So thank you, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Next opening statement will be Dan Kircher.
Thank you, and I am Dan Kircher, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. Just as Jackie mentioned, students and Mr. Williams appreciate you guys putting this forum on. I think all of us would much rather be sitting in front of a live audience than in front of a camera, but certainly we appreciate what you're doing and want to acknowledge all of the sponsors and everyone that helped make this possible. I am married, and we do not have children in the school district, but my wife is an alum of Cameron High School, and I have some, well, actually 2 nieces in school and other nieces and nephews that have graduated from Cameron. Although I'm not a native, I feel like this is my adopted hometown, if you will, and we enjoy it. As far as my education, I graduated from the University of Missouri and had my bachelor's degree in ag education, have a master's degree in secondary school administration, a specialist degree in superintendency, and a doctorate degree in school district administration. I like to say I have more degrees than a thermometer, but probably don't have quite that many. I taught school and was a school administrator for 30 years. I taught GOAG and FFA for 8 years, a high school principal for 9 years, and superintendent of schools for 13 years. And all, I think, very good years, and I've been retired a while now, 15 years. So I'm not out of education completely. I am teaching school right now, as a matter of fact, a long-term substitute at Marble. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. They send some students to Cameron for high school, and I am teaching 5th through 8th grade. That's quite an experience, but it does help you keep up with education and those sorts of things that are happening currently. So it's good for me to be able to do that. When I finished my teaching career, I went to work in juvenile justice and worked in juvenile justice for 7 years. Part of that time was also spent teaching juveniles as they were in our detention facility. And then after a couple of years of that, I was the superintendent of juvenile detention. And then my wife and I moved to Cameron, and for almost 6 years was a pastor at the local First Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, here in Cameron. And so have a long background working with kids, and that's what I want to continue to do is working with school, working with education, and hopefully providing input that would provide additional direction for the district. We have, I think, a very good school board right now, and I just want to be a part of that process and work for kids.
All right.
All right, and to finish off the opening statements will be Dale Howell.
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate what Dan and Jackie have said about your all's participation in tonight's forum. And again, thank you. My name is Darrell Howell. I am currently serving the end of my 4th term on the school board. I am a father of a set of twins that are juniors in high school. I'm currently married, and I work at Farmer State Bank here in Cameron. Prior to that, I was on the police department for 14 years, and I currently hold a reserve position there. Served 24 years on the fire department, and during my 4 years of being a school board member, I've completed the advanced board member certification. So I've done some extracurricular work for on the board just to keep educated and keep up with the times. So, but thank you again for allowing us to do this, and we're excited to answer questions.
All right, well, there we have it. Those were your opening statements. Our first question that was sent in is, what unique skills or qualities do you have that you would benefit the school, that would help benefit the school board? And we're going to start it off with Dan.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I think maybe I've alluded to that already. 30 years in education, 22 of those years in administration. I think maybe has given me some qualities in working with boards, especially boards of education, which I aspire to become a member of. And then uniquely, I'm a parliamentarian. I have been quite involved with parliamentary procedure, conduct of meetings for, gosh, over 50 years. and I have served as a parliamentarian for many organizations, boards, the National School Board Association, Missouri School Board Association, and other boards like that. So I think I'm qualified to sit on a school board and then maybe help with board operations, and whether that's unique or not, I'm not sure, but I think that my background lends itself to this type of activity.
All right, Daryl?
I would say probably just my 4 terms as a school board member, the fact that I'm a good listener, try to keep a level head. I just that's all I have.
All right, Jackie?
I think one of the unique things that I might be able to bring to the school board is I have been in our classrooms in all 4 buildings in our district for the last 10 years. I have volunteered hundreds of hours, and I've been a substitute teacher at Parkview Elementary, Cameron Intermediate School, Cameron Veterans Middle School, and the high school. So I've been involved a great deal within the past 10 years, and I've seen what a school day is like through the eyes of your children and your teachers as well. So I think that I have a perspective that maybe is a little unique, different, and perhaps we need a little bit more of as representatives of our school. So that's what I have to offer.
All right.
That is wonderful. The next question for Daryl is, what is the biggest challenge facing the Cameron School Board currently?
Probably one of the biggest challenges we have is just having a strategic plan for our facilities. Making sure that we've got a long-range plan on how to keep the facilities up to date, and then another thing would probably be security. I know we've taken some steps to lock down some of the schools, but with the current events that are happening, it's safety of our children, I think, should be priority. And so that's a couple of things that I think are really important.
Next up for that question is going to be Jackie.
Okay, and would you repeat that, Zoe?
Yes, what is the biggest challenge facing the Cameron School Board?
I look at that. There are multiple challenges that we face, and I think one of those I would agree with Daryl. One of them is safety. I know that the primary role of a school board member is to promote policy that does everything it can to, not to overuse the word promote, but to promote student achievement. I know that student achievement includes academics, but it also should include activities. And while we're doing that, we can't forget the social and emotional roles that we play in trying to ultimately produce a school district that puts students first and their academic achievement. I think that we need to definitely take a look at fresh eyes on each of the school buildings in terms of safety. I think that we also need to focus on ways that we can increase communication and channels of communication between the school board, the community, the teachers, and the students. I think they all have a vital role to play, and I think every group wants to be heard. So I know you asked about the priority, but there are several things there that I think are quite important.
Okay.
And now we will kick the question to Dan. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
It's interesting when you ask the question first of Daryl. I wrote down, the first word I wrote down was facilities. That's a priority, I think, and Daryl and Jackie both mentioned that as well. And I think it's important that we keep our facilities as current as we possibly can. And with that comes those things that's already been mentioned, the safety and security for our students. If our facilities are as modern as we can make them, are as current as we can make them, then that safety issue is also being addressed. Likewise, technology. We all, you as students especially, know how quickly technology advances and how what we used first semester is really maybe not even relevant now, second semester. Who would have thought last year that we would be doing a live Facebook forum for a school board? Oh, Derek thought of that, okay. But, you know, our technology changes so much, and so that also has to be a priority because we live in a technology age. And if we don't do the best that we possibly can for all of our students in technology, that is being a part of providing the facilities that we need to keep all of our students prepared for whatever the next step might be. And so, in a nutshell, top priority, facilities encompassing so much. Thank you.
All right. Our next question, we're going to start it off with Jackie, and it is, how will you support our faculty?
It's a great question. I think the goal of promoting student achievement encompasses really the first thing we need to look at in terms of doing that is giving our teachers all the resources and time and input that they need to succeed. As an example, I think that teacher salaries need to be looked at again. I think that from the feedback that I've gotten, that there needs to be more individual teacher plan time. I think that we need to give our teachers opportunities to also give much more input into what they deem is professional development. We need to look at ways to support our teachers in terms of emotional and social support for our students. So many of our teachers are faced with classrooms of 25 to 30 students, and within that classroom, they have a variety of diverse backgrounds and challenges. We have students that are, that may be dyslexic, gifted students. We have students that get A's and C's and that may come from a background of poverty. So within a classroom, teachers have so much more to do and to face and to work out than simply the job of educating. So I think we need to be aware that the role of an educator now is so much, goes so much deeper. And we need to look at ways to help them out, whether that be adding paraprofessionals in the classroom, whether it's adding counselors to our school buildings, perhaps a social worker in our school district. I think that we're getting to the point where these are challenges that can't be avoided. They need to be addressed, and those are specific ways in which we can help our educators out.
Awesome. Okay. Dan, how will you support our faculty?
A lot of what I would say Jackie has already mentioned. Salaries are certainly important, but we all know, or I hope we know, that we as teachers spend a lot of our own money for classroom supplies, for pencils for kids, for notebook paper, for things that they need and maybe can't afford from home. And I think our district has to take a hard look at that and say to our teachers, no more. You don't need to be spending money out of your pocket for classroom supplies. The district has the funds, and they're available, and let's use them. Let's put them in the budget, let's make them available, and let's not make teachers feel like they have to support the students financially in the classroom. So that's one big thing. I did substitute first semester in the district and at all levels except Parkview, and I saw that happening. I know that teachers spend quite a lot of money out of their own pockets. And so I think that's one place I would definitely start, and certainly then all of the other things that Jackie's mentioned with regard to paraprofessionals, if it's appropriate, and we have the budget necessary to support that. And then I think our extra duty pay scale needs to be looked at. Is it where it should be? Is our priorities, where are our priorities for extra duty? And are we getting the best possible sponsors for those? And then paying them adequately for their time. We have other benefits for our staff, health insurance, dental, vision. Are those the best that we can offer? And if they're not, why not? And if they are, then is there something that we can do additionally to support that? A lot of options, but I think that we have to, rather than make a blanket statement and say this, and this, we need to sit back and look and see what's been done, what's worked, and then maybe some fresh eyes that might have some ideas of things, other things that might also work.
All right, and Daryl, how will you support our faculty?
I think just giving the teachers the resources that they need to do their job. I think that's the most important thing. Making sure that the salaries are, in line with school districts our size and or maybe even a little more. I mean, just, making sure that we're retaining good teachers and wanting teachers that maybe would want to come to our district because of our salaries. So.
All right.
Kind of along the same lines, the next question that was asked was, in order to retain the highest qualified and most dedicated teachers, how do you plan to support these individuals? And this one's gonna go to Dan.
How do we retain?
Yeah.
Well, and I think you said our most important teachers. I think they're all important, every one of them, at all levels, at any subject or grade level. They're all important. How we retain them, salaries, I know, having worked as a teacher and currently working as a teacher, salaries are important, but it's kind of that same thing we just talked about a little bit, faculty support. We support with extra duty stipends where it's warranted. We support with classroom budgets that help keep students in supplies that they need. We listen. We simply listen to what's on their mind and ideas that they have. And then a lot of mentioned earlier, in-service, sometimes is thrown on us as teachers and not necessarily what we would really like to learn, but maybe then add some support for teacher ideas to help retain them. Provide training adequate for retention, and then listen to our teachers.
All right, next, Daryl.
I totally agree with what Dan was saying. I really think that supporting all teachers is where we need to be, and just making sure that Cameron High School is the best place to work, and keeping a good attitude towards the administration and helping them to carry that on.
All right, finally, Jackie.
I agree with both gentlemen. I think absolutely teacher salaries, benefits are obvious. However, I also think that one of the things that will keep high-quality teachers in the district would be having an extremely receptive building administration that is open to the ideas of teachers. I think that teachers need to go into meetings and, we toss the word collaborative out quite a bit. But collaboration is listening by both parties, input by both parties. So I think that teachers need to go into these meetings and these collaborative times knowing that they can disagree or have fresh ideas and not fear that their input might be looked down upon, or that their positions may be that there's no retribution or that kind of feeling. I just think that at this point in the Cameron School District, that teachers need to feel that they have the freedom to agree or disagree. And I think that kind of dialogue would help further what everyone is trying to do for the students at large.
Okay. Our next question, we're going to start it off with Daryl, and it is, why did you decide to run for a position on the school board?
I decided to run 4 terms ago because I wanted to kind of be involved in the education that my children were getting. They were kindergartners, I believe, when I first started, so I just wanted to be there to, help them, to make sure that they're getting the best quality education possible.
All right. Next is Jackie.
When my daughter started kindergarten, our Daryl and Kirsten and Trey and Lauren, my daughter Lauren, they all started kindergarten the same year, and like Daryl, I wanted to learn more about the Cameron School District and how things were run and that sort of thing. I just lost my train of thought. Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, of
please?
course. Why did you decide to run for a position on the
Okay.
school board?
Okay, so when my daughter was in kindergarten, I did see that the Cameron School District was struggling quite a bit academically in all the buildings. At that time, Parkview Elementary was being looked at by the state. It was a focus school. It was, we were in trouble as a school district. And Dr. Robinson, Dr. Shanks, school board at that time needed to make some really tough decisions, and things, there were changes made, things started to happen, and I saw those things happening, and saw that I too wanted to follow what was going on, and since that time, things have changed quite a bit. I am motivated to run for a school board position because I now see that we're at a point where we've reached almost a plateau, and so I think some tough decisions need to be made about where do we go from here, and what steps do we need to take to go to the next level. And I would just really like to be an active member in participating in what those steps might be.
All right, ma'am.
I decided to run for the school board because I think that oftentimes we hear the term an axe to grind. Someone has an axe to grind. They have a specific teacher or coach or administrator or some other personnel, bus driver, that they just have to get rid of. And I worked 30 years in education, and school board members do feel like, or do have those thoughts, I think sometimes, candidates do. And I want you to know I don't have that thought. I decided to run because I am open-minded. I do care a great deal for Cameron and its education department and programs, and so I think that I have, through my experiences, some things to offer that might help Cameron School District. I just believe that I've heard folks tell me that there's not enough transparency on the Board of Education. We try to hide things. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true through my experiences at all, that that's the case, but I have heard that. And so I decided to run for the school board to hopefully eliminate that thought of a lack of transparency. And then hopefully to eliminate the thought that Cameron is not a progressive school. Jackie just gave prime example of how we have progressed academically from a focus school to now hopefully accredited with distinction very soon. And so I think that my background, my strengths in boards, I've been on a number of boards and leadership positions on those boards that I decided to run because I think I have something to offer.
All right.
Very good. This next one we'll start off with Jackie. This question is kind of close to home to all students as technology is advancing, but what are your thoughts on restricting phone use in schools due to distractions in the learning environment?
That's a dangerous question. Being a substitute teacher, I will tell you that the students want their cellular devices in the classroom. And I understand why. We use our phones as calculators. We use our phones as mini computers. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. They are great tools. However, as teachers, I think that teachers, if a school district is going to make a stand on phone use, then everyone needs to comply. So you can't have 30% of the teachers going with whatever the school district wants them to do, and the other 70% not. Whatever you decide to do as a school district, everyone needs to fall in line, because if you don't, then there's no credibility there. It's a hard line to hold, but whatever you decide to do, you need to do it as a school district. I think there are definitely times when those phones are needed. I know students that may not have a personal computer at home, but they use their phones for technology, a source of doing research. It's a tough question. It's going to require a tough answer, and there are going to be people unhappy on both sides. It's a great question, and I think it's something that we just need to keep looking into, and we need to get the input of our students as well as our teachers and our district administrators.
We'll move on to Dan.
My answer is going to make me about as popular as a skunk in a hen house with students. But the very first question that I was asked was about priorities for the district, and the first thing I answered was facilities, which includes technologies. I think that we can eliminate the distraction of our cell phones, and I do think that there's a distraction. I think we can eliminate those distractions with adequate technologies in the classroom. I get it that a lot of kids don't have a computer or Wi-Fi at home or access to immediately at home, and so maybe they do use their phone for that. But when that phone comes into the classroom and becomes a distraction to learning, then it has to go away, because that's what we need to do with our students, is to educate them. And we used to use the term in the least restrictive environment, and the least restrictive might be your phone is restricting your learning. And so I agree with Jackie 100%. If it's a district policy, then it is a district policy for all personnel and student alike. But if it's not a problem, then don't misunderstand me. I don't think we have to eliminate them. But if it is a problem, then we do, and we follow our policy.
All right, Daryl.
I agree with pretty much what they're saying about the cell phones. I do believe that unless it's being used for educational purposes, it is a distraction. Just listening to some of the stories that's happen currently in our school district and with cell phones is, you know, it's almost like, I know some teachers check them at the door. You know, you put them in a basket at the door. And, you know, I feel like if that teacher feels that it's a distraction in his or her class, then she should be able to, or he should be able to say, put them in the basket and we're gonna learn today. Because I know pretty much all of us made it through school without cell phones. And that, again, I would like to reiterate, there's the policy that everybody should abide by the same policy.
All right. Our next question is, we're going to start with Dan, and it is, what innovative ideas do you have to provide our students with more academic opportunities?
I don't know if it's innovative, but I think that we need to be looking at the high school and the way it's configured, and not everybody's intended for college. Not all students should be or need to go to college. A lot of us are just going to work-a-day world once we graduate from high school. So we look at, are we providing the best possible education for our kids that are not going on to college? And in my opinion, the answer is no, we're not. And that may be contrary to some of our administration and maybe even to some of the students, but I don't think we are. We're missing the boat on a lot of vocational areas that we could do locally. Do we have vocational business? Do we have vocational home economics? I know we have vocational agriculture, but do we do enough? Do we have a vocational shop program to help these kids who aren't going on to college to get some basic learning skill? We taught our kids how to, I wrote a grant one time for a windmill, a wind generator, and we got that grant and we built a wind generator. We tore it back apart. In the next class, rebuilt it, and we tore it back apart. So they got hands-on learning on a skill because they weren't going to be a college graduate. How many of our kids that actually go to college graduate from college is the next step? How do they finish? How do they get done? Do they finish 4 or 5 or 6 years or get a degree in college? So let's do a better job of educating all of our students and preparing them. And I think we can reconfigure our high school a little bit and add some vocational classes without taking a big hit on the budget, and prepare more kids. You guys, most of you all look like you're probably college-bound material, or you wouldn't be in this class. But how many of your classmates are in that same boat? 100% of them? 40%, 50%, I don't know the number, but I know we can do more. So an innovative idea, I don't know whether it's innovative, but I certainly think we need to take a harder look at educating all of our kids and preparing them for after high school graduation, not after college graduation. And I'm a college graduate, so there you go.
All right, Daryl?
I agree with Dan. That's a tough question. It's, I guess, just making sure that we're giving our students the tools that they need to be successful in life. You know, that's a tough question. It's what, but yeah, I agree with Dan and what I just said.
All right, Jackie?
I too agree with Dan. I think that we have a wide variety of students and they all have different gifts and skill sets to offer. I think we do need to take a closer look at other skills that are not directly related to four-year colleges. However, I also want to add that we need to ask ourselves, why do we not have more of our students going to Ivy League schools? I know this is kind of on the opposite continuum of what we just mentioned, but why don't we? I think that we need to take a closer look at our gifted program. Do we have the science and the technology that's needed in those sorts of programs? I think we need to look at in middle school and high school, our science, technology, engineering programs. Can we do more to lift those subjects up and give students who are interested in those areas the tools and the information that they need to succeed in those areas. So I think that there are quite a few subjects and areas that we need to look at, all the way from VOTEC to why we are not sending more of our students to Ivy League schools. There's no reason why we can't. We've got the skill set, and we've got the teachers to help move that along, and I would sure like to see improvements in those areas.
Very good. This next question is for Daryl, and it will be, what is your attitude towards special education, or more in particular, our special education program?
I believe that our special education program is probably one of the best in the area as far as how we teach the special ed, and you know, I feel like we're taking strides to make it better, and that's it.
Next to answer will be Jackie.
I agree with Daryl. I think that one of the big things that attracts people to our community would be our special needs programs. That said, I think that we definitely could improve on those in those areas. I think that we need to continue to entice and bring along the best educators that we can to those children. I've been in the classroom with our special needs students, and you know, ironically or not, they are some of the most gifted children that I've ever had the privilege to be with. And I think so many students, faculty, and administrators kind of lose sight of that. I think that we need to give our special needs educators all the tools that they need to do what they can to produce students that have just as many opportunities as those who do not have special needs. I just, if I were a board member, I would look at every initiative that I could to help that group of children.
All right.
We'll finish it off with Dan.
Okay, there's probably not a more regulated sect of students than those in our special education programs. Federal and state regulations pretty much dictate to us what we can and can't do. But let's not forget that special education also includes our gifted students, our accelerated students. Those are special students as well. And so it's important that we look at all of our special students, not just on the lower spectrum. And let's do what we can for them. I'm not saying we are not, but let's make sure that we're doing what we can for them within the restrictions that we have, and there are a lot of restrictions in special programs, and so working within those bounds, we continue to educate our kids to the best of our ability.
All right. For our next question, we are going to start it off with Jackie, and it is, how will you support ideas of having high school advanced classes such as Spanish, calculus, and others as online classes with not live teachers?
Okay. I support virtual learning. I think there is a place in public schools for virtual learning, and that is, like Zoe had mentioned, having this year as an example, having, I think it's Rosetta Stone as a way for students to learn Spanish and French and Japanese and other languages. I think that if we cannot find the right teachers or faculty, or we get into a bind and we need to supplement our students' education, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. In fact, I've had several students approach me and share with me that they have really enjoyed the virtual learning of foreign language since it began, I guess, a few months ago. And so just hearing that kind of feedback is good. I would love to have a teacher right there in the classroom where you could, as a student, ask questions and get feedback right away. However, if we can't do that, then we cannot hold back the progress of education. So if we need to look beyond having a teacher in the classroom, then I'm all for it.
All right, Dan?
I absolutely support advanced classes without live teachers. That virtual learning is, I think, what I've been saying all evening in our technology program. We are advancing and we get behind if we don't at least keep up. And so we have to, and I think that is a very good way of learning. Is a live teacher better? Most of the time, yes, but you wouldn't want me teaching you Spanish. So that virtual learning opportunity is something that we need to take advantage of, because simply we can't offer everything with a live teacher, but we can offer everything in a manner in which all of our kids can learn if they're interested and motivated to do so. So I support those classes 100%, and I think we need to continue to look at them and do whatever we can to advance our curriculums.
All right, Daryl?
I do also support virtual learning. My daughter currently is taking that class, and she, I asked her, I said the difference between the teacher versus the virtual learning, and she really seems to like that virtual learning part of it. And so I just feel like that we should support the virtual learning.
Okay.
All right, the next question will begin with Dan. This is I find this one very important for students. It says, for many students who inhibit and have leadership skills and want to create change, such as social acceptance, teacher and student relationships, etc., how will you help support these students and implementing their ideas?
Students have leadership ideas? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, to put it in an easier to understand way, the students who want to have a voice, or say are in the student council and have ideas that they would like to share, how would you suggest that their ideas get to you guys?
Okay. Well, certainly as a high school principal, I had student advisory committees. I had parent advisory committees. And if we're not utilizing those, we should be. And that includes Honor Society, Student Council, class officers, any other input that students, maybe we're not a part of any of those organizations or groups, but we have ideas. So we can include them on our, I would call it a visioning committee, to help with those leadership types of things that a person possesses, to help get those into to the school board if necessary for policy. But if we don't have those listening committees as administrators, we're missing the boat. That's why we're here. That's how we grow. That's how our students get their ideas across. That's where a lot of innovation in schools come from, is from students with really good ideas. Whether you like what they're doing or not in Parkland in Florida, there are some things coming out of that I think are going to make changes across our country. And it's student initiated. And so we have to listen. And if we're not, we will.
All right, we'll move on to Jackie.
There's so much I want to say. I'll try to keep it brief, but what you guys are doing tonight is exactly what we need more of. We need students who are willing to put out in the forefront what is important. I know that Zoe and Angelina Pratt have recently brought really tough issues to the forefront of students and the school district. I would like to see more of that. I think that the Dragon Network offers not only important issues facing students, but I also think they do a great job of bringing forward entertainment and letting students and teachers in the school district know what's going on, what to look forward to. And so I really appreciate what you all do. Secondly, I know that the middle school has a program called The Leader in Me. And what I like about The Leader in Me is that the main focus is to empower students. And so I think empowering students is the absolute correct direction that we need to go. So I'd like to see more of that. I guess I want to take the opportunity to just touch on something else in terms of student expression, and that is in regards to the high school. I think that the Cameron School Board, I hope that they would, in the next couple of years, would take a fresh look at the student handbook. I think that our students have a voice in what goes in there, and I think there are things such as the way students dress and how they express themselves in regards to hanging things on their lockers. If you want students to be citizens in a world that, and you want them to be heard, then it starts in the school district. You need to take a fresh look at some of the things that are in the handbook and maybe relax a little bit and let students be empowered a little bit and let them express themselves a bit more.
Very good. Daryl?
I totally agree. I think it's good that high school students are wanting to get, you know, their ideas heard, and I would be very supportive of that. You know, like you said, it's their education, and if they can make it better, then I'd be up to hearing what they have to do, what to say.
All right, our next question, we're going to start with you, Daryl, and it is, what strides do you believe would be effective in improving the culture within the schools?
That's a good one. I guess pretty much everything we've been talking about tonight. I mean, just all the good points that have been brought up, and that's all I have.
Okay, Jackie?
I would touch on the handbook to start with. I think that when students run for city council or they run for a class officer position, I think, again, that school building administrators need to see how these students are expressing themselves and not get caught up with whether a piece of tape is on a locker, but rather encourage citizenship and expression, and not to worry about how we're going to get the adhesive off of the locker. I just think that we need to give our students a little more space and a little more freedom to express themselves. I think that would help the culture quite a bit. I also think it would help school spirit a bit. And so I think those are just a couple of the really elementary ways to begin to do that.
All right, Dan?
I touched on it a moment ago, but I want to say it again. We have to listen. We have to be open to what students are saying. Two of my favorite expressions when I was in school business, and the one most important is that kids remember what was done to them before they remember what was done for them. And if we can listen to our students and do something for them, hopefully they will remember that, rather than the fact that we did something to them by making them take a piece of tape off a locker or some other superfluous piece of waste of time. So I think that the way we improve our school culture is to listen to our students, provide administration that earnestly listens, allow an avenue or a vehicle for input. That might be the committee type thing I was alluding to a moment ago, where we have visioning committees where we have students that can provide input without fear of retribution from a teacher who says, well, you're going to get an F because you said something bad about my class, or whatever it might be. But we have to listen, we have to be earnest in our listening, and we have to provide every opportunity for input from our students without fear.
Okay, for our next question, we will, and we're back. I'm Tyler Anderson again. And sorry for the technical difficulties. We will kick it back to Dan in regards to the question, in rewarding teachers who are in the top tier of their work, and what needs to be done about teachers who need improvement.
Okay, well, yeah, and we'll try not to repeat too much, but merit pay was what I was talking about earlier, and who decides the merit, and then who decides that the person that's deciding on the merit is meritorious. And I think that we go back to a committee of peers that helps make that policy for top performing teachers, because I do believe in recognizing our top performing teachers. I think that's important, and if there are those who are underperforming, this then can become a motivator for them to reach maybe a higher level, or at least another level of teaching, which we need badly.
All right, we'll end with Daryl.
I agree with everything that's been said about that. It's very important that we, motivate the ones that are not performing, and recognize the ones that are, and I totally agree.
All right, we're gonna start off our next question with Dan, and it is, in light of current events, what are your views regarding the safety of our facilities?
You really should start with Daryl, because he's a safety officer, and then I could get my ideas from him. But I do believe that we need to take another look at our, especially high school building. There's a lot of glass, and I was talking to actually two safety experts to kind of get some input from them, because I thought this question might come up, and both of them commented that with a large amount of glass, if there is a shooter, heaven forbid that should happen, but if there is a shooter, they don't have to hit anybody with a bullet. They can just shatter the glass and let that shrapnel do all the damage that they need done from the outside without ever entering the building. So we need to take a careful, close look at that, and is there something that we can do about if there is in fact excess glass, which I think there is, and I think there is something we can do about it. Elect me to the school board and I'll show you what that is. But we also need maybe more dog visits in our school, where not just looking for drugs, but perhaps with gunpowder residue that might be present to help in that detection, and as a deterrent for anything else that might come along. So I'll cut it off right there.
Perfect.
All right, Daryl?
I agree with Dan. We that high school is several years old, and back when that high school was built, it was built with the glass in mind to help bring light in, and in today's current events and things that are happening, that's why our long-term facility plan should, we should be looking at ways to make our high school safer, I know we've done some, you know, as far as the point of entry goes and locking down the school. But with the latest current events and kids bringing guns to school and stuff like that, it's, you know, there's a lot more we can do. And, you know, whether it be metal detectors, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that are being kicked around but I do know that when I send my kids to school, I expect them to come home, and that's pretty dear to me.
Okay, we'll finish it off with Jackie.
I think all of us are concerned about our kids and the well-being of our students and faculty and staff. I will say that having been a substitute teacher in all 4 buildings, there are weaknesses there. There are points of entry that really need to have fresh eyes on them again. So I think just some common sense things need to be done, and that is, again, getting fresh eyes on all entry points into each school building in the Cameron School District, from elementary all the way up to high school. I think that maybe we need to look at asking trained adults to be at those entry points that are trained and know what to look for, things that are unusual, just different student behavior. I think that the Cameron School District has done a good job at increasing security in all the schools. However, I do think that we can continue with that progression. And I don't know if that might possibly mean, you know, panic buttons for entryways. Perhaps we have those, I don't know. But also educating our students and letting them know what to look for. Things that are just unusual, out of the ordinary, maybe dangerous behavior. We need to provide them with whatever skills that we can as educators to be on the lookout for things that just aren't quite normal. So any initiative that the Cameron School Board wants to put forward to make our students and staff and faculty safer, I would be all in favor of looking at.
That's perfect. The next question, we will start with Daryl, and it is, what areas do you think the school district could cut expenses?
That's a pretty tough question, because I you know, I really don't want to have to cut expenses. You know, I feel like our budget is, you know, we have reserves and you know, that's in line with what the state expects us to kind of keep, and you know, I feel like that's kind of not my job. That's kind of the superintendent's job to cut expenses, and you know, if they feel like, you know, there's something that we should, and they make a recommendation, then I'd be supportive of it.
All right. Jackie?
Yeah, that's always a tough one, but I think one of the things that we could look at is our high school is aging. I think we all know that. Every year we're doing repairs on the roofs. It wasn't built to be energy efficient. I think we need to look at replacing some of the exterior doors, look at the windows again, lighting systems, perhaps looking at upgrading insulation. I mean, there's a whole host of things, but I think one of the things that may in the long run help to cut expenses might be looking at updating and upgrading or renovating the high school that we currently have.
That's wonderful. Finish off with Dan.
Okay, cutting expenses, I'll just bet you that the school board has looked at that carefully. The current board, they're very thrifty, I think, with district funds, and I believe that they manage them well, and the administration sees to that. So I really can't give you an honest answer of areas that we should cut expenses, because I don't know. I've looked at the budget, what I can see online. I've looked at all of the minutes for the last 6 years that's online, and frankly, I don't know why we'd want to cut expenses when in fact we might do just as Jackie suggested, and I suggested in an article to the paper, that we need to do more maintenance on our building, which in the long run would cut expenses. But cutting right now, I don't think so.
All right. Just a reminder, due to the fact that we're running short on time, if we could try to keep the answers to about 1 minute. Our next question, we're going to start off with Jackie. Do you think our schools do a good job addressing bullying, and what role will the school board help play in this?
Okay, 1 minute is a really short amount of time for me in regards to bullying, because this subject hits me in a very personal nature. And I'm gonna go over the 1 minute mark, but I'm gonna try to go through it, try to keep up. But when I was a freshman in high school, I watched a sophomore student troll the hallways and classrooms, finding people that he could bully. And, you know, he was verbally abusive. He picked on girls and made them cry. He did the same thing to the guys. And as a freshman, I am hoping and praying that he would not see me. I didn't want to have to deal with this young man. Well, the first semester went fine, but the second semester he saw me. And so I became his target. So as the days went on, again, verbally abusive, and then it became physical, and he'd bump me in the hallway, or I'd be in a classroom and I'd be writing and he'd bump my arm, and it was just escalating. So one day we're in the classroom, and he went a little too far. And he said something to me, and I responded to him. And as I walked away from him, I heard gasps coming from my classmates. When I turned around to find what the ruckus was all about, he was throwing a punch at me. So obviously it was on. And after a few minutes, it took 2 teachers to peel me off of this young man. We were both suspended for 3 days. And on the way down to the office to be suspended, I apologized to my teacher for disrupting her classroom. And she stopped me in the hallway and she said, "I'm really sorry you're going to be suspended for this, but you did something that so many of our kids have been wanting to do." Now, I have a couple of very quick observations about that time. Number one, his name was John, and I would like to think that John learned more that day than he did the entire school year. And that's really sad. Secondly, I was never picked on again by anyone. And finally, I would say that it went too far. That adults and administrators who see that there is a bullying problem or a chronic bullier in the school, they need to hold the line, and they need to stand up, and they need to take some tough action to get that under control. Because no student should get to the point where they feel like that they have to defend themselves. In regards to bullying, I think that you can have all the programs that you want to have for a school district, but you have to have adults that will hold certain standards, and you got to follow through with it.
Right. Dan?
Okay, the first part of the question was, does the school address bullying? And my answer is yes. I doubt if there's one single student who hasn't been addressed in some form or fashion, either seen something in writing, heard something spoken, or been talked to by an administrator, teacher, or someone about bullying. So I think, yes, the school does address bullying. What should the school board do? That's the second part of the question. The school board is primarily a policy-making body. If we don't have adequate policies in place to address bullying, that still happens, even though we know that bullying is addressed in our schools. If we don't have the policies in place or adequate policies in place, then the school board needs to adopt those and make sure our administration enforces them.
Okay. Daryl?
I agree with Dan and Jackie, and the thing is I feel like we need to educate our teachers and our students on ways to know what bullying is, making sure they know how to report it. So it gets to the right person, so it stops, but again, I agree with Dan as far as the policy of the school board, and if we have a policy that it needs to be enforced.
All right, we will move on to the next one, and we will start off with Daryl, I believe. Oh,
Dan.
no, Dan,
Dan.
my apologies.
Sorry.
And this one will be, can you speak to the idea that the district policy allows students to redo work without any consequence might be spilling into their overall work ethic in general, in the classroom, on the sporting field, or moving forward into the work environment?
Redoing assignments without consequences. Personally, I don't favor that policy. We do get second chances in life, and I have no problem with that. But along with those second chances do come consequences. So I think we are not doing our students a favor by allowing complete redo without the consequence. Does it have to be critical, result in failure? No. But does there need to be a consequence? Yes.
All right.
Moving on to Daryl.
I agree. This is a practice that I never got to do when I was in school, so it's just one of those deals where I feel like the students aren't preparing themselves unless they have to do the redo. So it's like they're just, not preparing. And as far as it, I know when they go on to secondary education and stuff like that, that there is no redoing. So I don't like it.
All right, Jackie.
I agree with both Dan and Daryl. I think that I wouldn't go necessarily to say that we're setting them up to fail, but I think that we're setting them up in the future that they are not going to get these second and third chances. They're not going to get them with their employers. They're not going to get them in college. And I just don't know that this is a very good road to be going down.
Okay. For our next question, we are going to start with Daryl. What do you see as, okay, let me try that again. What do you see are the board roles and responsibilities for our district?
I believe the school board's role, is that what you say?
Yes, roles and responsibilities.
Is to hire a superintendent, which we obviously have done, set policy, and basically just be the soundboard from the community to the administrators, and just be a good listener, and pass on concerns to the administration.
Okay, Jackie?
I agree with Daryl. If I would add anything, it would just be that, we set policy to promote student achievement. And student achievement includes not only academics, but also looking at the social and emotional aspects of our children.
Dan?
The board's role, primary role, is that of a policy-making board. And that's what we need to be doing, is making policy and then making sure that our policy is carried out after we've given it careful thought and thorough study. And then that then becomes our responsibility, making sure that the policy is carried out the way it was intended to be.
Very good. Although this one will be hard to narrow down to one, this question will be for Jackie. First, what is the number one improvement you deem necessary to make our school board the best?
That's a very good question. I think with any school board, I think Dan touched on it earlier, I think transparency is absolutely vital. And I think that our current school board is doing a good job with that. I do see that they offer a lot of different ways for parents to get information about the school district. I think they could do a little bit of a better job, and if you want specific examples, I know that families are very busy these days with all their students' activities. However, in knowing that, I think that we could use a remind system that we have for the school district. Send out a remind of when the school board meetings are. It's something very basic, simple, but it just is another way of reaching out to parents in the community, that if you're involved, or if you want to be involved, we're doing this tonight. I think that when it comes to the comprehensive school improvement plan, you know, once, I believe it was revised in 2016, I'm not exactly sure on that, but, you know, when those came out, you know, I'm a parent that would have appreciated a remind or an email stating our CSIP objectives are out, and if you want to look at them, here's where you go to get them. Yes, I know they're on the school district website, but it doesn't hurt to throw a reminder out there to parents who are looking out for that sort of thing. So I think that simple things like that would go a long way.
All right, Dan?
There's a couple of number ones, and my first one is transparency. I don't think that there is an issue with transparency, but I've been told that there is an issue by patrons of the district. So let's make our board as transparent as possible, and then board training is paramount. I think all of our board members are currently advanced in their status as board training, but certainly as a new board member, I would become a certified board member as quickly as possible so that I can move on to that advanced stage. So to make our school board the best, training and transparency, TNT.
Very good. Daryl?
I'm gonna repeat a lot, but I'm gonna be real short about it. I would say probably the transparency and the communication and like Dan talked about the education. I think if our school board is educating themselves in their duties as a school board member, because we are asking our teachers and our administrators to be educated and to keep their, you know, education going, that I feel like as a board we should too. And also attending the different regional meetings there's usually one in the spring and one in the fall, and just seeing what's current that all the school boards are having to deal with. It's helpful, so to go to those meetings.
All right, we will now end our questions. That's all we have for tonight. We'll go to closing statements, and we will begin with Dan.
Dan.
Okay, well, thank you again to the class, and especially Derek as their sponsor and all of the others that have been so diligent in getting this set up. We appreciate the opportunity as school board candidates to let you know about ourselves and to let you know about why we want to be on the board. And I just met Jackie tonight, and I've known Daryl for a little bit, but I can tell you, folks, if you want to vote for them, you're not going to be doing anything to hurt the district. They're good, qualified candidates. I think I am also a highly qualified candidate with years of experience in boards and education and working with kids, and I can offer a lot too. And we all appreciate the support and appreciate what you all have provided for us tonight.
All right.
Daryl?
I would also like to thank you all for allowing us to speak with you tonight. I apologize for going long.
You're long, what am I?
And like I said, Dan spoke, you know, we have three, well, two, I'm not even gonna say myself, but, you know, I don't feel like you would be doing anything wrong by voting for any of us, and the important thing is just vote, get out to vote.
Absolutely.
All right, Jackie?
I think these two gentlemen have a lot more bells and whistles to offer than I do. I'm not a former superintendent, nor am I an incumbent asking to be reelected. But what I do have to offer to bring to the table is that I have spent many years in your students' classrooms, watching, learning, observing, and I've seen what it's like, what a school day is like through the eyes of your students and your teachers. And I think that is something that's unique that I can bring to the table. I appreciate, I look out at this room right here, and I think I've had 9% of these students in a classroom, and I'm so super proud of them. And I really would like to see all students, everyone has their own skill set to bring, but I would like to see all students have opportunities like you students do tonight. And anything that I can do to empower the students and the teachers and bring and continue the progress that the Cameron School District has made would be something that I would look forward to. And I appreciate Dan and Daryl tonight and all of you as well, and thank you for your questions.
All right. After all the seriousness of this evening, if you keep up with our daily district update, you know we always do a joke of the day. So your joke of the day is, what is the worst thing about history class? The teacher tends to babble on.
All right, before we end this, we would just like to say a few quick thank yous. First, we'd like to thank the staff at KKWK and KMRN for letting us take over their studio every day. It means the world to us. We would also like to thank the school board and everybody at the school, Mr. Jones, everybody who's helped us make this class a possibility. We'd like to thank the community. Obviously, things like tonight would never happen without you guys, so thank you all for all you've done for us. Our families for letting us be in a class that takes up so much time. And most importantly, we'd like to thank Mr. Derek Williams for making this possible for us.
Real quick, I do want to make sure to acknowledge the kids you couldn't see tonight on camera. So guys, come on up real fast. You knew Megan, or you knew Zoe and Tyler, what they did. But behind the scenes back here, Ivy's not with us because she's at HOSA, but she wrote questions in case, but you were great. We didn't need them. But real fast, I want Westerly, and Eli, are you back there? Eli's here. They were taking care of monitoring questions and sending them over to the moderators. And then Megan was taking care of the camera, and Vitaly was taking care of the audio. I think they did a great job. So thank you so much for joining us. We had fun. I think they learned a lot. So thank you guys so much for helping us out.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
I'll go
very
turn off
much.
the camera.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.